is going on, CDL community? Spencer Peterson back here again to run up another season of the Call of Duty League community updates. And I already got the guy with me, the GM of Call of Duty Esports, Daniel Sai. Daniel, man, I'm stoked to be back. How are you feeling?
Yo, it's good to be back with you, Spence. Manning the mic with you on these community updates. I'm glad we're doing it again. And we have a lot to talk about. It's our shortest off season ever. Like, the season's right around the corner. So let's dig into everything that we're doing.
Yeah, listen, you talked about a short off season. I actually can't believe it's only October. We're getting close to the season already. But before we dive into 2023, let's go back to last season. We haven't talked since then. Let's touch on some great moments, right? We're talking about LAG's miraculous run in Major 2, New York clutching up in front of their home crowd to make a spot at playoffs, and then ultimately LA absolutely capping off the season, winning champs in front of their home crowd. What sticks out to you as one of the most amazing moments of the season?
You listed a couple good ones. Just off the rip, I love that you mentioned New York. As you know, I lived in New York City for over a decade. And so I loved going back to see that awesome city, and the major that they did was awesome. Between the walkouts, the drum lines, Krim coming out with his walkouts, it was awesome. And by the way, it's definitely worth mentioning, an entertainer to the end. All due respect to Krim, obviously he's retired, but he's done so much for the scene. It was great to see him kind of entertaining us into the very end there. I think probably that ultimate high, though, has to be champs, right? You mentioned LA Thieves. For us to be hosting the championship in LA, have the hometown team win, all that those players have gone through, to see the full circle for Nate Shot and the rest of the organization, from player to ownership, it was just an awesome storybook ending that I don't think we could have written any better. So that'd probably be at the top for me.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny was absolutely frying the whole weekend. Octane gets that ring. It was just such an amazing moment, I think, for everybody that was able to be there, not only for the organization, but our fans. But let's move on to 2023. Just for the viewers at home, we definitely want to be able to let you know that we're going to be touching on some updates to format, and then, some updates to the Challenger season. We're super excited for all that stuff, but, I'd say we just kind of hop into it.
We'll do it.
So I know the league already made an announcement that our season is going to be kicking off earlier than ever on December 2nd. But can you let us know what went into that decision?
Yeah, I mean, simply put, we said we were going to move it up, and we're following through on that commitment that we made many months ago. We're excited about that. It's taken a lot of hard work across the studios and our CDL teams to kind of jumpstart the season a couple months earlier than it usually would, but I think it's going to be well worth it for fans to watch their favorite players competing earlier than ever.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw the community chatter about wanting to start earlier. I know they're going to be stoked that we're starting earlier, but not only that, much closer to game launch, which is awesome for everybody. But the announcement video that dropped a few weeks ago also didn't touch on the actual structure of the majors. How are those things going to work?
So I think besides Major 1, the format of the majors will largely stay fairly similar. Heading into last season, we implemented a bunch of changes, things like pre-scheduled matches for competitive parity, condensing our schedule into 3 days, all these things to make it easier for viewers to tune in and teams to plan ahead. I think those changes worked. Generally speaking, overall, viewers are watching about 40% more hours than they did the previous season. So we're pretty happy with those, and we'll be running it back. Other than that, it's still 5 matches played per major. 3 weeks of those will be played online, leading into 1 week of LAN at our major tournaments, obviously. And just because we are doing the hybrid online and LAN, I do want to kind of dig into that a little bit, particularly on the online gameplay piece, because I know that does come up a little bit amongst the community on online gameplay and the performance there. We provided a little bit of an update, I think, in the middle of last season on just how online gameplay was doing. And I wanted to provide it here now that we have the whole season's data. In our 2022 season, 94% of the maps that were played within 10 milliseconds of each other. And overall, mid-game crashes and restarts were down 85%. So overall, like we're making strides. There's a positive trajectory with online gameplay, but us at the league, we think it's really important to make sure we're constantly improving in that department. I would say where last season, the focus was on developing the minimum latency tool, adding a new server. This offseason, our focus is on this match restore tool. And essentially what that tool is going to allow us to do is restart games, if it happens, closer to the circumstances of the game that was happening before the game crashed. So that should be helpful as well. We're pretty excited to roll that out.
And something that you mentioned in the middle there was always striving for improvements, right? And it's awesome to hear that the internal team is really trying to build on and make online gameplay even better year after year, which is honestly a huge W for all of our players, knowing how long the season can be and how many matches are played online. So, but I want to shift focus. I know we want to start breaking down the actual structure of our majors, but before we do that, listen, I saw some clamoring on socials as well. Would you please just confirm what game modes we're going to have for 2023? I think everyone needs to know.
You know, Spencer, I think it's really important that we control the narrative here. I don't know if I'm ready to share right now, but we should really control the narrative on this one. It's getting out of hand.
Listen, all puns aside, I'm glad that we've established the narrative there, but let's shift focus and jump into the majors. I know the previous video that we shared mentioned that our first major will include challengers teams, but again, how is that going to work? How are those guys going to fit into that event?
Yeah, and just taking a step back, I'm really glad that this season we're providing those early opportunities for amateur players to really shine, and that's one of the main reasons why we put Pro-Am at the very beginning. There's a couple ways that challengers can really make their mark here at the beginning, and it starts off with 2 Challenger Cups and an online qualifier into the Pro-Am event at the very beginning. If you do well in those, then, and by well, I mean top 8 teams, then you will be invited to Raleigh. We'll have 3 NA teams, 3 EU teams, 1 APAC, and 1 LATAM team. Amongst that group of 8, they will play on a LAN qualifier right before the Major 1 starts. And from those 8 teams, 4 will be surfaced to participate in the Pro-Am of Major 1. The bottom 4 teams will go into the Challengers Open that's happening. So that's the Challengers piece of Major 1. And then as far as, you know, the pro side, it's the path looks pretty similar to last season, right? Like it's a shorter major. We're going to have 2 weeks of online qualifying matches. It's going to determine your seedings. And that seeding leads into 4 groups, 3 pro teams plus a challengers team. And that's going to be the group play, that whoever wins out of that group play, it's going to be GSL style. Top 2 will keep on going through the tournament, and it'll be a double elimination bracket tournament this time, as opposed to the single elimination of last year. Last thing I just want to mention is that this bracket major finals, not just for Major 1, but all our majors are going to be best of 7 instead of best of 9. Just kind of maintain the length of these matches. That we found that they got a little bit weary last year, and so we want to condense that a little bit. So I just want to round off with a couple remaining elements to our CDL season format. One of which is something we actually debuted last season, and it's our Call of Duty League bounty matches. We're excited to bring those back. They should provide a little bit more extra prizing opportunity, some bragging rights for our pros here in the middle of the season. So that's an exciting feature we'll be having in our 2023 season. I also want to make sure we touched upon our CDL points for this upcoming season. We thought that last year's system worked pretty well. It was obviously a very close and exciting playoff race there at the very end. Anyone could really make it into playoffs there. But one thing I will say that we saw out in the community in terms of feedback was, should we allot more points to those LAN matches? And so that's actually something we dug into a lot, running a lot of different simulations and analyses. What I'd say is the LAN points already matter a lot more than our online points. And so we feel pretty good about how it is right now, but it is one area that we're going to be very closely watching and analyzing throughout this season to see if that is something we should continue tweaking. But right now, the 2023 season points will remain the same.
Yeah, listen, a lot of awesome things, a lot of cool changes about the majors, having the challengers players stacking up against the pros again. I mean, listen, our pros have to be on their A game early in the season. The challenger teams are going to come out firing. They want to prove themselves. So it's super awesome to see that first event. It's going to be amazing. But I know in our intro, we talking about challengers, right? I know those guys are waiting to hear what kind of updates you got for those guys.
Yeah, so this year's Challengers is going to follow that same multi-layer structure that we've had in years past with the Cups, Elite, and Opens. And so as a quick refresher for anyone that's not aware, we have the Cups, which are open online competitions for anyone to really test their mettle and see if they're good enough in the Challenger system. Then we have our Elite program, which is a closed circuit of the very, very top Challenger teams to see what good competition and the best competition look like when they compete against each other. And then lastly, we have the Opens, which are these big LANs that are usually hosted alongside our majors that really provide for that global competition opportunity within the Challenger space. So that's the overall structure of Challengers. But let's actually talk about the changes that we're looking towards in 2023. There was two major focuses this offseason. One was on how do we create more opportunities for Challenger players? And then two, how do we more accurately assess the skill level, the seeding, and all that of top Challenger players and teams? So we made three specific changes. The first of which is to our Elite system with NA and EU Elite. We're going to be expanding from 8 teams in the circuit to 12 teams. There's just too much good talent out there. And so we didn't want to keep that top talent out of the circuit. We're going to be increasing the amount of teams participating. The second change we're going to be doing is smoothing out the points curve across Cups and Opens in terms of placement in those tournaments. Really, we thought that there was too big of a disparity between the top seeds or top placements and the middle placements. That should be corrected. So there's a smooth out that I think overall is going to help everywhere, but in particular that number 9 to number 16 placements of those tournaments. And the last change we're going to make is to the big thing, the Challenger finals. We heard folks loud and clear last season, very justifiably so, and we're going to increase from 8 teams to 16 teams for the Challenger finals. The way those teams are going to be determined, we're going to have 2 teams that come auto-qualify from the last Challenger Open. So the top 2 teams of the last Challenger Open will be able to directly qualify into Challenger finals. Super exciting there. We're going to have 4 teams coming from regional LCQs from the 4 respective regions, 1 per region. And then the rest are going to come from regional leaderboards. So all in all, those are the focuses for 2023. We know it's an incredibly important part of our ecosystem. We want to continue improving in this area. And so we'll look forward to 2023.
A lot of awesome stuff there for challengers, right? And I think as we all saw last year, we know how passionate those guys are, and we know, how much we do love hearing them and their feedback. So really excited for those updates and really excited for the Challenger season. All right, but there's honestly just so much stuff to look forward to in this upcoming season. And honestly, it's coming soon. Anything that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Just that I echo that excitement, Spencer. It's been a flurry of activity this offseason getting ready for Modern Warfare 2, but it's an exciting one. The fact that our season's just right around the corner. So that's going to be awesome. The other thing I'd say I'm excited for, Spencer, is honestly us running this series back of community updates. I thought they went really well last year. We got a lot of great feedback from the community about it. Everyone be on the lookout for these to continue happening at our major tentpole events. And looking forward to doing these again. And until the next time, everyone, thank you for tuning in.